Hello and welcome back to Game Vitamins. My name is Nick, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about the TCG world as a whole, and whether or not we should be paying more attention to alternative TCGs. We all know that the big two are Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, that those are the real bread and butter of online sellers and stores, collectors, investors, resellers, whatever it might be. But I wanted to branch further into the alternative TCGs, your One Pieces, Flesh and Blood, Sorcery, Weiss Schwarz, stuff that could potentially just be an expensive distraction, but could also present a lot of decent opportunity. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. I've been recording these in the morning. Gonna have a sip of the Joe and start off by talking a little bit about the big two that still rule, why that is. It's obvious. We won't spend too much time on that. But then I want to talk about my take and opinion on each alternative TCG that I've mentioned. There are so many more out there. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie. But I want to just talk about what I know about them, hear what you guys have to say, and see if there's a case to start focusing more time, energy, and capital towards some of these other TCGs. So cheers, let's get into it. So if you are familiar with this channel, we focus on Magic the Gathering, but I will throw Pokemon in here as well and talk a little bit about it because I have been doing a lot more on the sealed sales side of stuff versus like dealing in singles, just because still not something I'm super familiar with, and I know that in general the sealed market just tends to be a little bit better, especially given my situation where I have a store and can get distribution. But Magic the Gathering and Pokemon are stable. They're big games, big IPs, things that have been around for so long, and the liquidity and turnover, the volume that you can do in those games is unmatched. So clearly, these big two still rule because we just have so many people that are trying to enter into the card selling world. And where do you turn? If you want to actually be able to make some money doing this and turn it into a full-time gig or even a part-time gig, you're going to focus on an area where you can turn over a lot of product. So that is clearly Magic and Pokemon. I mean, just this last week, as an anecdote, I was trying to adjust my direct pricing so I wouldn't get hit too hard with everything going live. And I think our RI reimbursement invoice for TCGPlayer was over 7,000 cards. And that wasn't even trying to race to the bottom. So the volume is clearly there for people who want to sell those games. But competition is really fierce in those games. You know, it really is a matter of pennies on each card as to whether or not people are buying from you or the next guy. And with that comes other opportunity in other games. Where there's fierce competition, there might be lack of attention on the other side. So that is the point of this video. Let's dive into it. I want to talk a little bit. I've got a list of the TCGs that I've been paying it a little bit more attention to. I've mentioned them in previous videos, but now that I have been starting to play them, not really past like a starter deck level, and explore the world, the collectability, the players, it's interesting. So as a little bit of a prelude to talking to these, I think if you're getting involved in alternative TCGs, it is really important to know the game, play it, learn it, understand what makes certain cards good, what makes certain sets good, you know, probably due to the singles that came out in those sets. But it's valuable to understand the games that you're playing and the games that you're selling. So I just want to lead with that. It's something that I've been trying to do myself, just so when I talk about them, I feel like I'm actually allowed to talk about them. I'm certainly no authority in these games, but so take that with, you know, my opinions with a grain of salt. But let's start off by talking about One Piece, because One Piece is something that all of my friends, a lot of people that have seen it, there's a really big collector's interest because of the IP, the anime side of things. Like, that world has just adopted it very quickly, and it has very strong IP. I mean, that is the core of One Piece, right? I mean, the show's been going on forever. They have made it known that it's not even close to being over, and they've done a good job at creating really cool arts that bring you back into the show and make someone who might be a casual viewer, who might not even really know the game, have a lot of fun opening the cards. Now, I've seen a lot of that, more so than the actual playing side, but I have played the starter decks and understood how it's played. It's a little more fast-paced. It's fun, though. I enjoy that it's a little more limited in what you're able to put out there within like your crew and when you're battling each other, just so things don't get too wide or crazy. That was actually a mistake we made when we were starting to play, as we thought you could just have as many creatures out as you want. Understandable as to why you can't. But I think within One Piece as a whole, you have some really strong sets that have very high value cards, and that is on the collector side of things. And even though the game, at least where I am, has a very niche following in terms of active players, it's been interesting to see the amount of people that comment on it and are interested in it solely out of their interest for One Piece as a whole. Bandai has the funds to back it, and I feel like they'll be able to push it relatively well alongside the show. So just an alternative game that I've been taking a bigger look at and starting to add a little bit into the back stock of inventory. But I will talk also about pros and cons of targeting some of these more indie alternative TCGs as well when it comes to the whole finance side of things. So One Piece, definitely interesting. It's fun to play. And I do see it could have a solid potential future. Again, the reason I'm really talking about these is just so as sellers and as a seller with a store, I want to be able to diversify. Even if it's an online store, though, you could start leaning into some of these because it's not as fierce and cutthroat as Magic. So you might be able to kind of carve out your own section of the market a little bit easier. So Flesh and Blood was one that I mentioned in a previous video that really didn't have many people talking about it or coming in and asking for it, but we did have some people come in looking for the game, noticed that we had it, wanted to sit down, play. I watched and learned more about the game, the mechanics, and I will say, out of playability and my interest in playing these games, Flesh and Blood and Sorcery definitely top the list. I like the dynamic in Flesh and Blood where you have like one main guy that you're buffing up and giving weapons. It's sort of like if you're Voltroning in Magic, but you're both just doing that and just, going back and forth, beating each other up. It's kind of fun. It's sort of like Street Fighter as a video game. Not really, I guess, because that you're just truly fighting. But, the sequencing and the ability to buff up your character. I even forget the name for like your main. It's not Avatar because Avatar is Sorcery, but whatever. Your main guy, you buff him up, you fight each other. I enjoy that aspect of the gameplay. Again, I'm not an authority on these games, but it seems like the people who play are very competitive. There's good money in the singles, and the overall sentiment towards it is that if they're involved in it, since it seems so specific to how you're building out your attack sequences and your equipment around certain characters, it feels like certain cards definitely have the longevity in terms of price points. So I just thought that was interesting as well. This is one that, again, has been asked about the least, so I'm not necessarily throwing a lot of money at it on the investor reseller side of things, but it seems like there's dedicated players, dedicated spenders, and it's something that I want to learn more about and sort of be able to sit on. I think a lot of these games are certainly like sit on sealed versus breakdown for singles, but I think there could be an argument on some of these just so you have a very cool variety. If you're really trying to be a big online seller of card games, just to have variety across a lot of different games, you could go about it that way too. So Sorcery is one that I think I'm the most excited about, and it's probably because of the dedicated fan base. I mean, there really hasn't been that many releases. Alpha, Beta, Arthurian Legends, and now Gothic coming up in December. But the people who follow the game and enjoy it are just so passionate about the game. And I think that is super healthy in terms of the long-term success of a TCG. I mean, the fact that each release has been brand new cards, that everyone gets pumped even about the different printings of the waves of beta just for the different arts. Like apparently across each wave there was different quality of art printing. So it's just cool to see how involved people are in the world of Sorcery. And I think that the art itself, the play style, I kind of like that it's almost like chess mixed with Magic, where you're advancing into, say, the other person's territory. You're trying to build your board in a specific way based around your avatar. We had a Sorcery event the other day at the store, and it was really cool to watch, and I really want to play with some of the starter decks more so I can really learn the game, especially before Gothic comes out. So Sorcery, it has its own niche following, some strong card value, and again, one of those things where it's so new that I think being able to sit on some original releases around beta could be a strong play into the future as well. I've had more people asking about Gothic than I expected in terms of pre-release in the store and online. So there's definitely some interest going on there, and something that I think could be really cool moving forward in terms of like diversifying and trying to get people involved in other games within the community as well. So lastly, I want to just mention like Weiss Schwarz and Yu-Gi-Oh, Gundam, Riftbound. I mean, I know Weiss Schwarz. It seems like the only reason I know about it and a lot of people know about it is because of Rudy and how he talks about it and sells it. I've talked to a few people in the store and they've played and they like the play style. I don't fully understand it, but what these other games sort of mean to me is just more diversification. And if that's something that you're looking to do in terms of your TCG investments, then by all means, it's probably worth looking into these. I mean, Riftbound, again, similar to One Piece, has really strong IP and a strong backer, where League of Legends has been around for a long time. Personally, I haven't played it in a really long time. I don't know what the popularity is like now, but maybe it'll go the way of what was World of Warcraft's online card game. But they're all just trying to carve out their own portion of the market. So if you want to bet on it, if you want to try to see if there's some potential upside, it's worth looking into, learning, and buying some boxes. But I want to talk a little bit about like the financials behind these alternative TCGs as well as resellers, because it's important that we are maximizing the use of our capital. So I had a few points on like the upsides, and then some points on some of the risks and the reality behind tackling some of these other games. So the biggest things that I want to look at on the upside for alternative TCGs would be, first, diversification, which I already mentioned. If you look at games and releases, you never really know. You can speculate of what's going to be a huge hit, but you never really know until it fleshes out in the market. So with that being said, Some people just want to have a little piece of everything that comes out. And I understand that. And I think that's something that I've started to lean towards a little bit more, where if a set does really well in a game that even if you're not as familiar with it, you still have, it's like a portfolio, right? Like a stock portfolio. Are you investing in one stock, all your money in one stock, and see how that one goes? You know, you have your blue chips. Oh, I got something in my eye. Okay, I think we're good. I mean, you can invest in like your blue chips, your Magic and Pokemon, but say you're big on One Piece. Do you want to put all of your money on a stock that you're not quite sure what the future holds for it? Or do you diversify your portfolio? Do you have a heavy weighting in the big two and then lighter weightings in all of the surrounding alternative TCGs? So that's the way I'm starting to look at it a little bit more, because now that I'm stocking more games for the store, it's just made me more cognizant of the market of different games, and even, any of these releases potentially being hits or flops. So as things come out, it could be worth just getting some level of exposure for diversification purposes. On another potential high point is margins. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Pokemon and Magic are very competitive, very cutthroat, and are in a lot of cases racing to the bottom, right? Everyone knows that term, just people trying to undercut each other, turn over high volumes of cards, do it in an efficient manner that makes it worth their time. But at the end of the day, that's what you're up against. You're up against sorting machines, you're up against a lot of like big players. So that's what we're all dealing with, especially in different market swings where certain box breaks can be completely profitable and small sellers won't have a tough time at all being able to bring in commander decks or boxes, break them down, sell them, and be able to turn profit. Other times when markets stagnate or a lot of people get involved, it can just squeeze the margins out. So in these more niche games that don't have as much data behind them, I think there could be potential for better margins. Is that the case? Does that mean that will definitely happen? No, not at all. I mean, you could go through all of these. You could go through 50 boxes of Legacy of the Master and have a ton of junk, or apparently with a 126% standard deviation of expected value, you could also wind up with a box that's worth like thousands of dollars, or it could be pennies. So that being said, it's higher risk, potential higher reward. But if you can carve out, I keep saying this, but it's true, right? You can carve out a section of the market. Maybe areas to buy certain bulk within a more niche game and can figure out better, more profitable ways to turn it over, because not everyone is dealing in sorcery bulk or One Piece bulk or Flesh and Blood bulk, There's new games just offer new opportunities, and that's really what I want to get at regarding the margins. And lastly, I guess the one other thing is just like collector crossover. That was one thing I noted, is people who play certain TCGs might be more apt to branch into other TCGs. I think a lot of Magic players have started to hear about and learn about Sorcery because of the way that they market themselves. I think people involved in Pokemon and sort of the more animated anime style things might go towards One Piece and the collectability factor, where it's not as much about the played game. Don't hate on me if you're big on playing it. That's just what I've gathered so far. So let's get on to some of the risks. And I think the biggest risk for doing this, which again I've alluded to, is tying up capital. Tying up capital is huge in this game because card games are expensive to buy and hold. So I've been running into this a little bit more recently, where I've been trying to build a really big backstock of sealed product just so I can offer online patron sales, so I can do cheap magic like Rudy does every single month. My method is a little bit different because I try to take orders every week and then go to distribution, so I kind of get the right amount of product. But at the same time, you do want to be able to have a backstock of product, so when they leave distribution, you're still able to order it. But, when you're buying a case of cards, 6 boxes can go pretty darn fast, and 6 boxes can be $700, $800, $1,200, $1,300 if you're buying, Modern Horizons 3. So capital can get tied up very quickly in TCGs. I was running into that with Pokemon too. I was finally getting more Pokemon from my distributor, but it was coming in at a pace where I was like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on Pokemon. So I really need to focus on getting this stuff sold so I can free up some capital. I am not taking the approach of some stores where they're bringing it in and just fire selling it because of whatever reason. I still just do not understand online sellers that are selling below distribution prices or at distribution prices. I mean, they're losing money unless they just figure kind of what I was saying about diversification. You bring in a ton of everything, and some are a hit, some are a loss, but you just flush it all through and see how it goes. I'm a small seller. I mean, small relative to like these big online sellers, and I just don't have the capital to do that. So tying up capital is huge. So it's really easy to say, oh, there's a good deal on Legacy of the Masters. I'm going to buy a case of that, or a master case. Or is it a master case or just a normal case that comes with 12? Either way, you could go out and spend $1,000 on a case, and then you could get a case of every Magic release. And then next thing you know, you've tied up like tens of thousands of dollars just with one case of each product. So adding in these alternative TCGs just creates more capital being tied up in stuff that you don't know if it's going to work out. That's why I think, honestly, for real small sellers that are doing it part-time, you probably want to be focusing on stuff that you're bringing in, breaking down, and selling and turning over capital so you're actually making some money. Because if you look at investing as well, it's what you always hear, and what I've come to realize is you need money to make money, and that, investing $1,000, 10% yield in a year, you're going to make $100. But if you can turn over that $1,000 time and time again, you'll likely outpace any sort of investment return with actual like running a business return. That being said, I have a video on this, investing versus selling. And I think until you have a lot of capital that you're willing to just let sit there, similar to the stock market, you want to be turning product over. So that is one other thing. Also, you don't want to be getting involved in alternative TCGs if you're expecting high velocity and really quick turnover of product, because you look at sell-through rates and it's just not the same. It's just not even close. It won't be matched. Just keep that in mind. I really don't need to hammer this one home too much, but if you're going to be selling singles in some of these different games, you're going to be sitting on singles for a while, but you'll have the variety. And maybe as people get into the game, if you're the first one that has a lot of stock and you have certain price floors, but you have a wide variety of cards, then hey, maybe you're the one that's going to be getting the solid margins. Maybe I will be. But I'm just saying, that's stuff you want to think about when looking at this. Okay, sip of coffee. We've been going on for a while. Let me just see if I have any other notes here. Lastly, a few of the final notes I had was just like distribution uncertainty, like Gothic. I have no idea how much I'm going to get. I don't know how consistent I can be on some of these releases with, say, trying to break into pre-sales or just allocating funds accordingly. Hype cycles, some of these games might only be getting popular because of the popularity of the big two. So between hype cycles and uncertainty on value and longevity and the community and how, just if the game is going to have the legs, there is a lot of uncertainty. So that's why I think if you are going to explore them, do it on a small dipping the toes in the water sort of level. That's what I'm doing. I'm definitely keeping most of my funds in Pokemon and Magic, but I do think at this stage I want to widen my breadth of knowledge. So if it's worth it or not for you, I'm just trying to see if there's any last notes. No, I think that is probably it for now. Those are my takes on some of the games. Those are my takes on where they may go, the risk factors, the pros, the cons, more so just like a discussion about them. Let me know what you guys think. What TCGs are you looking at? Comment down below. If there's anything specifically across these that you'd like me to touch on, let me know as well. Maybe it would be a fun way to, when I've done my breaking down 100 plus boxes of X, Y, or Z, maybe I end up doing that with a TCG that we have no idea how it's going to perform. That's a massive risk. Maybe we would do it on a much smaller scale, but could be fun for the just opening an experience and running the numbers and kind of getting back to the roots of that before we had all the fancy technology helping drive the business. So thank you all for watching. Again, let me know what you're looking at down below. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.